Hello and welcome to another video. I hope that you are all very well. Recently, I've been getting a lot of people asking questions, asking in the comments about whether they can take their own car to the driving test or not. Now, I'm not 100% sure as to why a lot of people want to take their own cars. It could be that they've been learning in their own cars recently as driving instructors were not allowed to teach. Or maybe they are key workers, because the situation with key workers is that the DVSA are trying to book all the key workers in this month before the end of the month. And they are giving them short notice, i.e. less than 3 clear working days notice. So these key workers, they receive the email from the DVSA and they are happy, they are really excited. They call their driving instructor, but because it is such short notice, there is a good possibility that the driving instructor may not be available. So they often turn to their own cars. Some people decide to hire a car for the driving test. Now, if you decide to hire a car for the driving test, it is important to understand that the vehicle must be fitted with dual controls. You cannot use a car hire for the driving test if it is not fitted with dual controls. As I said, a lot of people decide to take their own cars and they're wondering if they can take their own cars. Well, the good news is that if you decide to take your own car, it does not have to be fitted with dual controls. But there are lots of other rules and regulations, and if you don't follow them, the whole thing can easily backfire on you and it can work out extremely expensive to take your own car. There are rules for the person supervising you, and there are rules for the learner driver. So let's talk about the rules for the supervisor firstly. Rule number 1, they must be at least 21 years of age. Number 2, the person supervising you, the person teaching you, must have held a full license for at least 3 years. And by a full license, it must be a UK license or an EU license, and that includes Switzerland. Furthermore, the license should cover the category that you are learning to drive in. For example, if you are learning to drive a manual car and the person has an automatic license, then they are not legally entitled to teach you. That person should also be insured to teach you. So if the car's theirs, then they'll most likely to have insurance and they'll be covered. If the car's not theirs, they must make sure that their name is on the insurance or they buy a separate insurance. The person teaching you must not take payment for the driving lesson, for teaching you. And that means not even taking payment for petrol. So even if they say, oh, just fill up the petrol and you can have as many lessons as you need, that is illegal. It is against the law for anyone to take payment for driving lessons unless they are registered with the DVSA. That's the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency. So those are the rules for the person supervising you. What about the rules for the learner driver? Well, when you go for the driving test, probably the most important thing is that you've got to remember to take your provisional driving license and ideally your theory pass certificate. These are things that your driving instructor would normally remind you, but if you're taking your own car and your instructor's not with you, it's for you to remember. If you wear glasses, remember to take glasses, and you must have a face covering. If you forget the face covering, the examiners may, and I say may, they may lend you one, they may not. So ideally, take your own, well, you must take your own face covering. If you refuse to wear face covering, your test will not be conducted. So driving license with you and face coverings, make sure you have it. The other thing, the car must be fitted with L plates, front and back. Make sure that the L plates are secure. I've known not one, but many learner drivers who've taken their own car for the driving test, and during the test, the L plate has flown off, and the examiner will then terminate the test. So make sure the L plate is firmly stuck on the vehicle and there's no possibility of it flying off. The other thing, the examiner will check that the seat belts are working, the vehicle is fitted with a head restraint, and the examiner will check all tyres on the car to make sure they are legal, and also make sure the lights are working. Indicators, headlights, reverse lights, tail lights, all lights on the vehicle must be working. The vehicle must be insured, and most importantly, you, the learner driver, must be insured to drive the vehicle. Either your name has to be on the owner's certificate, or you can buy your own insurance. You can buy your own insurance for a month at a time. Some companies will even allow you to buy insurance for a week at a time. But you can Google that. Just type in learner driver car insurance and you'll be able to purchase the car insurance. So as I said, the car must meet those conditions. When you turn up for the driving test, the examiners will verify that the vehicle is insured and taxed, and if the vehicle is over 3 years old, that it has a current MOT. These will be verified electronically by the driving examiner. So you won't need to produce your insurance certificate or your MOT certificate. The only paperwork you need to take is your provisional driving license and your theory pass certificate. All other documents will be verified electronically by the driving examiner. Now, another thing that you've got to be aware of if you're deciding to take your own car is to make sure that the car is clean. Inside and outside. The windows should be clean so that visibility is clear, and inside the car should be spotless. There should be no dust on the dashboard. If there is dust on the dashboard and the examiner feels that the car is not clean, they will not conduct the driving test. So it is very important that the car is spotless. In the back of the car, don't leave any bits and pieces lying around like a bottle of water or anything like that, because what happens is when you brake suddenly, for example, during the emergency stop, these things can roll and go under the brake and preventing you from braking, which obviously can be highly dangerous. There's a couple more things that I need to add, and one of those is an interior mirror. We mentioned the L plate, that the car must be fitted with L plates, front and back, but it must also be fitted with an interior mirror for the use of the examiner, so the examiner can see through the back window. These mirrors are not very expensive. You can buy them for about £5 to about £10 from various stores, for example, Halfords, car accessory shops, and sometimes even the bigger Tesco's. If you turn up to the driving test without an interior mirror, the examiners may, and I use the word may, they may lend you theirs provided they've got one in stock. If they don't have one in stock, then your driving test will be terminated and you will lose your £62 test fee. Furthermore, you will have to rebook and wait in the waiting queue again, so that could take an extremely long time. The other thing that you should take, especially during this COVID situation, is a blank piece of paper and your own pen. Before the COVID situation, the examiners would ask you to sign their iPad. And just before that, because the iPads were only introduced a couple of months before the COVID, so before the iPads, the examiners would ask you to sign the DL25 form. Now, however, because of the current situation, the examiners are trying to reduce as much contact as possible. So they don't want you to sign their iPad, and they don't want you to sign their paperwork. So you have a blank piece of paper, you sign it in front of the examiner, place the paper on the table. You then place your driving license, your provisional license, alongside it, and the examiner will, one, verify the signature matches, the signature from the blank piece of paper matches your provisional driving license, and the examiner will shine an ultraviolet light on the license to make sure that you haven't made it at home, to make sure that the license is genuine. So that's that. The examiner will then ask you to put your license and the piece of paper back into your pocket, wallet, or handbag. If you turn up to the driving test without a blank piece of paper or without a pen, it's not a problem. The examiners will lend it to you. However, it's better to take your own. So those are the tips for taking your own car. If you're taking lessons from a driving instructor, or whether you're taking lessons from a family member, make sure you watch our videos before going for the driving test. The situation is always changing. So if you're a subscriber to the channel, it's important that you have the bell notification on, so that if there are any changes, then you will get the latest information. If the bell notification is switched off, even though you're a subscriber, you will not be notified of our videos. And it's very important at this stage to keep up to date with all the information. If you're not a subscriber, then now is the time to subscribe so you do not miss out on our future videos. I hope you found this video fun, entertaining, and informative. If so, please give us a thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.